Hey guys, Ben Labadie here, and I'm with Henry Savek, and this is Business Entrepreneur Weekly. We're going to be talking a lot about local business and the things going on in the world that affect local business and business in general. Henry, how are you today? Good morning.
Fantastic. Good morning, Ben. I start my day at 4 a.m., so it's been a good day so far. How about you?
It's good getting up early, and it's a
Yeah.
nice day out, and you're more productive this way. Get coffee in, and we have a lot of stuff on the go.
Yeah.
And this is our first Business Entrepreneur Weekly episode, and we hope to have more of these. Well, we're going to be having more of them, and we're going to see participation rise. Tell me, Henry, what made you want to do Business Entrepreneur Weekly? You already have this going already, don't you?
Well, we have a newspaper. It's one of my I'm a serial entrepreneur, kind of dumb sometimes, but started this PIreporters.com, which has a investigative journalist who works and puts out an article every Monday, and it's to help with the community of Chatham-Kent. So they investigate different things. Right now, it's the landfill toxic liquid thing. We don't need to talk about that, but anyway,
Right.
that's what they're working on. And with that, we started Business Entrepreneur Weekly because I work with a number of startups who have all kinds of thoughts and issues. The thought was, let's describe how businesses in Chatham-Kent are, small business entrepreneurs, how they're doing, their stories, how they're, modifying for COVID. And we started just a couple of weeks ago. So every Tuesday, there's a couple articles on a local business. Last week, it was Planet Print and a local contractor talking about how they handle it. And this week we have some other. So every Tuesday, there's new articles, and it's $1.99 a month, and people can support the journalists. Journalists get paid regardless of subscriptions, and eventually they share in the profits. So the idea is to eventually have a full-time journalist in small communities who can do investigative journalism and also report on business, which is very important to our communities.
Absolutely. And to give people a little bit of feedback, what I've been doing, I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur myself. Currently, I'm in real estate as a realtor out of the Kitchener-Waterloo board, but I'm mostly in Chatham-Kent doing real estate here. I've also created apps. I'm working on an app right now called Who's Up. It's kind of like a meeting app and dating app. It was really affected by the COVID-19 because the whole idea is meant to connect people with other people to go out and do something in public. That was really affected. But I've, published my own book called Eating Sober about helping people eat healthier and, live a more healthy lifestyle, which might come in handy with everything that's happening here in the world, really. And I've done a lot of marketing. What I really love, Henry, is marketing and watching how people react to ads and what ads work and stuff like that. So a lot of when you're in sales one-on-one, especially like real estate, or I also had a fitness studio, so I had that for about 5 years.
Wow.
It
Wow.
is working one-on-one with people. You're
Yeah.
selling to people, and you're selling yourself, really, and they have to trust you with what you do and the work you do. So it's really interesting. That's my kind of entrepreneurial background.
Well,
I've
can I just say,
also
sorry, go ahead.
Go
Keep
ahead.
going. Keep going.
One more is when I was 19, I created a board game, and probably was one of the greatest things that you can learn from, because you take an idea and you go from idea to package. You create an actual item, and you one day see it in a store, which was really
Wow.
cool. And
That's
I did
cool.
that young, and then I sold it to Canoe.ca, Sun Media, and they didn't really do anything with it. So could have been
That's
billions of
awesome.
dollars, but nothing.
I'll just tell a little bit about my background. So, been involved in real estate for about 40 years with the fam. My mom, my wife, and Joshua, who's out at treepad.ca out on the East Coast. Our son manages, and he's also a partner in business. So we're in real estate. 30 years I've been in private mental health business, and also I have entrepreneurs from coast to coast. We fund 14 different startups and advise some of them. So we sort of get a sense for a pulse of what's going on in different communities. I focus a lot on home health care for seniors and disabled folks. So technology to help people live independently. And there's some amazing changes coming in that, which we need today. So that's part of it. And we can talk about that. And also a number of startups, including Exercise MD, that I've been working with for a few years. And we've got some new things happening there too. So that's kind of what we bring to it. Did a book called Shrink Money Advice. 10 years ago, I wrote something, and and put some ideas together. And I said, okay, what would happen if you had followed this fictitious person's path 10 years later? And I wrote about that recently, called Shrink Money Advice, and I have a free podcast with the same name. So always doing stuff.
Awesome
a lot
stuff.
of fun. And today's kind of like
another...
Mondays. Sorry, but Mondays to me are like spring for farmers. It's like you have a weekend, you recover, and now it's Monday, and it's a whole week ahead of you, and you get jacked up, and you get set some goals, and you get optimistic about what we're going to do this week. So it's exciting times.
Absolutely. And another thing that people bring to the table is the engagement with others. As we get going further, we get to hear questions and participation with conversation from others who in the business community, or people who want to get into the business community. So it's going to be exciting stuff. So let's talk a little bit of current stuff, because I think everybody kind of wants to do that. And let's just talk about the people that are already in business and how they're going to go back to business, because there's going to be a lot of things affecting the way things move forward. And that is how to take care of your clients, how to take care of your employees, and how to deal, especially with the social change. You know, the norm has changed a little bit. So space is different. How people comment about your business, how people review your business is going to change based on a lot of the safety precautions that you have in place, and how we move forward with that, and how your employees will feel comfortable, and how the people walking into your business and using your business will feel comfortable. Do you have any comments on that before we get really into that?
Yeah, I was going to say, you ever have an Etch-a-Sketch as a kid, one of those little things where you can draw and stuff? Never had one, but
Absolutely.
You just shake it and then it wipes out the screen and you start over. I'm sort of the belief, and this is my bias, that we've had a kind of like an Etch-a-Sketch moment where suddenly the screen is open, is totally clear. And I don't think most things are going to be the same, not so much because of the industry, but because of what's happened behaviorally to the customers or the people purchasing our goods and services. So I think there's a whole, once you get over survival, am I going to eat? Am I going to have a place to live during the next 6 to 12 months? And is my business going to sort of survive, whether it's mothballed or moving? The question is, what will your Etch-a-Sketch look like coming out of this, which I think is an incredible opportunity, but really will test two things that entrepreneurs need to have to be successful: attitude and effort. So, a year from now, if an entrepreneur is looking for funding, and I was sitting across, I say, okay, tell me how you handled the COVID thing. And I would be looking for attitude and effort. Two characteristics, by the way, that banks never look at when they look at people. They look at your scores and your numbers and do you fit in a box. They're not that concerned. I mean, if you have some glaring character issues, probably, but effort and attitude are the most important things to being successful, because you're going to have to take that business and find new ways and decide ways and work. And, it's going to be, focus on what you can control. So that's what I'm excited about. It's difficult, but we have to deal with what's on our plate. I mean, what can you do? Right. So it's an exciting time. It's the Etch-a-Sketch thing. Now,
I think as we move forward, and I love the Etch-a-Sketch idea. I think
I ran on the treadmill. I did my treadmill before this. It's a treadmill thought, we call it when we do emails.
Awesome. I love that way of thinking. And as we move forward, I think a lot of business, I want to warn businesses, because if they don't follow precautions or they don't create their own, there's going to be that social backlash that's going to affect some people, and you'll see it. One business may not be doing one thing, or one business went above and beyond to take more safety precautions. I think we're going to find a lot of that, and I really think people need to be prepared. Now, in the real estate industry, I have to be, like, as a realtor, I have to be prepared to make sure, that I may have masks, or I may have bags for people to put on their feet when walking through a home. That would make my selling client feel more comfortable, and it will also make my buying client feel more comfortable, because there's, that exchange where you have somebody coming into a building, and no realtor wants to miss a step and have that social backlash saying, no, this realtor wouldn't take these steps, and ended up putting people at risk.
Well, here's a problem for you. Let me ask you this, because we're doing this, you and me, and you're a real estate guy. So let me throw this at you. What if I said to you the solution is to somehow educate residential buyers that you can buy something without looking at it and still have confidence? Because in the commercial world, generally you get an accepted offer before some of us even bother looking at something. So we don't even like we get the numbers, you look at the, you do your analysis the way you do it as an investor, but you don't, why would you waste your time on something until you have an accepted offer? So, the confidence on the commercial side is you have to have people do proper inspections, you do histories, you do backgrounds, you do some real digging once you get an accepted offer, and usually you have 30 days or 60, or it could be longer if it's a big deal. But in residential, do you have to change the culture? Because I don't think, if I was selling my house, I don't want people coming in my house, period. I don't care how many shoes or things you're wearing. I just,
yeah.
So how is your industry going to respond to that customer possible, feeling I have?
And, this is a great kind of perspective on the way that, as a seller, you don't want anybody coming through your house. You still want to get it sold, right? But you don't want anybody coming through your house. So that presents a couple new issues. I believe, when I deal with commercial owners or buyers, or when I deal with people that are very experienced in flipping or, just renting out, they're more likely to say, okay, we'll take this because the numbers work, right? And we just want to do an inspection at the end. I believe we are moving forward with that. You will see residential buyers, new buyers, start to get used to the idea that they've seen everything through a video online, through a video walkthrough with their realtor. And as that becomes more popular, it becomes more socially accepted, and it becomes more of a norm. Right now, it's not a norm for people who want to buy a home for the first time to not see it. It's just not the norm.
Well, I see.
And it's not expected.
I would have two. If I was an inspector, I'd have two services. I'd have the research service, which would be maybe a couple $100, and then I'd have the hazmat review. And the seller would know that this dude's going to show up in a hazmat outfit, the guy who's inspecting it, and that person or woman, and they will take pictures of everything, verify, certify. That might be $750, but or more. But at least in the end, the buyer knows that it's been walked through by a professional, which will probably help a lot of people, because I know a lot of people residentially, they buy things and they don't even, especially when this crazy time was, they didn't have a condition of inspection. In my early years, I did that. I'd drive by places and buy them and then go, oh my gosh, what did I buy? So this might actually help the buyers if they're educated that how important a proper, and an inspector who has maybe a background in engineering or construction, someone who really can tell you the guts of the building, not just the general stuff. And I think that's going to change that industry, right? And then that will change the banking industry, and that will change the tech people who have to write the software to take all that data from the hazmat and the finance. So that's one example. I think I call it the ripple effect. So it's not just opening the door. Think about the other day, the Prime Minister came out and said, he came out and said pretty much most healthcare can be done virtually. And we're going to put 200 and some, I think he said $1 million into these new platforms for all healthcare other than hands-on that's required, which is about 90. We've known that 90% of healthcare can be done virtually. The science has been around 80 or 90%. Now suddenly people are realizing it. Now you could argue, why do we need to spend another $250,000 on platforms if they're $1 million if they're already developed? But that's another story. But let's assume, what's that going to do to the world of medical offices? What's that going to do to all the ripple effect of real estate and jobs and working from home and physicians working from home and technology? So just by that one announcement on the weekend, I think it was Sunday, as he was throwing the hair from him, the hair was blowing up. He said, we're changing the entire, and when they're changing it, this isn't just a short-term change. Suddenly all offices medically, 90% of healthcare is going to be done virtually.
Absolutely. This actually, I was waiting in line at a restaurant. Normally Recently? I'd be in that restaurant. Yes.
Whoa, so where can I go eat? Is it around here? Where?
The Chatham Breakfast House and Grill. So, they had a lineup.
Yeah.
You're 6 feet apart in the parking lot, basically. And they had a good lineup. They got good food. And I was sitting there thinking, and I was talking to the other person about the change in restaurants. There was a major line. There was no shortage of people wanting to buy food. And do you see some restaurants changing to more of a takeout rather than a sit-in?
See,
right?
I'm so worried about that industry because I like to eat, obviously, and I like to cook, but I like to go out to eat. But the problem we have is if you look at their margins and you look at if you're making 5% or 7% on a restaurant, that's pretty good apparently. So if you're cutting your capacity in half, I don't see any margin. Go to 3/4. So then we're talking about takeouts. Well, what do you need? I was thinking about this before our call. What do you need for takeout? You probably need half the space, or you need a commercial kitchen,
Right.
or you need a platform like Airbnb. Instead of renting a building, you're going to rent a kitchen, and you're going to
Yep.
go on and you're going to start a business. So there's going to be I just think that industry. I think half of the restaurants won't come back. I think this idea that we're suddenly going to magically get back to that is not there. There's going to be an opportunity for people in that industry to create new things, but they have to have the attitude and the effort to do that because it's going to hurt. I mean, if all of a sudden you've been in a restaurant business 20, 30 years and you can't do it anymore, you don't just suddenly pivot and go, oh, life's great, now I'm going to be an entrepreneur again. It's kind of a challenge. And I don't think we're ready to help that sector that creates all the jobs because you got the people working in the restaurants, you got the farmers who deliver, you have the butchers, you have all, so it's worrisome.
And it's very interesting, especially with the attitude and effort part about this change specifically, because a lot of restaurants they closed down early. They just stopped because they thought it was like a 1 week or 2 week deal.
Right.
They really did. This has gone way beyond what anybody ever thought. You see some of these restaurants doing very, very well with the takeout idea. They're doing very, very well.
Define doing well. Are they surviving? Are they surviving, or are they actually making a profit?
I believe they're making a profit. I believe they're doing very well based on the lineups that would be way more than the people that could sit in their business at that time.
But let's look at the Keg and Cleaver. Remember the Keg? I mean, they're done. How is the Keg and Cleaver going to have 50% capacity and make a profit?
Right.
They can't do takeout. I don't think you can do a steak very well. I mean, and their locations, they have real estate where they're paying rent like crazy.
Right.
And then you got the landlords. You got all the staff that make great tips. I knew some of my buddies worked at Kegs at college in the summer, and they were making great tips. That's all gone. So, I mean, I think takeout's going to be huge. A delivery, if we talk about, if I was sitting around thinking about, if I was passionate about delivery and doing an aggregate app, it would be for delivery services. I mean, there's so many opportunities for delivery right now. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely. And another thing back onto the restaurants there, what I'm finding, what I'm seeing, and what I'm doing myself is that I'm buying takeout from unique local shops, the mom and pop shops that are not the franchises, but the ones with specific menu items that I like.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Rather than like I'd go to a franchise. I go to franchises often to meet people and have a drink and have a meal regularly. That's a normal thing. But when it comes down to the takeout idea, I go to the more mom and pop unique item menu, and I think that's where a lot of the mom and pop shops have lineups.
Well, there's a huge demand. Like you live in Chatham, which for our community is the city, right? Chatham is the city. Right. Well, where I live in the country here in Blenheim, I don't know where I can get takeout. Like there isn't any. Right. I mean, I'm sure there's some of the restaurants. I know the one restaurant in town. I'm sure some of them. But wouldn't it be great to have an app that knew where I was, where all the restaurants doing takeout, and it was an aggregate that linked to a delivery service where people who wanted to earn extra money delivering food in this community, it wouldn't take that many, would just do it. It'd be like any other, but you would aggregate it. So it wouldn't, in Halifax, when we got takeout delivered to the Mountain House, it was, Uber Eats. There's other ones in larger cities. But when you talk about smaller communities like we have in our region, there isn't that opportunity. So restaurateurs should become, some real sharp restaurateurs should develop that app and be the aggregate for all restaurants. So I said in one of the articles in Business Entrepreneur Weekly, if you owned a restaurant and you hired a delivery person and someone called in and said, okay, I know you make pizza, but can your delivery guy go to Mickey D's because I'm craving Mickey D's? Would you take that order? And the answer is yes. You find a way to deliver from every restaurant. You become a delivery, and your margins on delivery will be much higher than it is on the food you're actually spending all this money making, and you'll have a better business. So we need an aggregate for, you know, I was saying to someone the other day in Michigan, a buddy of mine, I said, look, if you could every morning go in and video the grocery store, right? Everything in the grocery store, my community. And I could go online and touch the celery, picture of the celery, little box pops up, one bunch. Hank wants one bunch of celery. I look at the raspberries. If they're lousy, I pass. I keep going, whatever I look for. I hit a button. It goes to a delivery guy who gets the order, who says, yeah, I'll deliver to Hank. Here's the cost, right? Whatever it is. And I know the quality of what I'm getting, because the biggest problem, I think, with delivering groceries to me is, what if you bring me lousy cabbage or you know, meat that's got 1 day expiry? So there has to be, someone could develop that probably fairly easily. And the money isn't, I don't think, I mean, maybe the grocery store would kick you some money too, because you're now providing a service for them. I think some of them are starting this on their own, but it doesn't have the video concept, because you want to see what you buy, right?
Absolutely.
And a senior, my mom who's 95, if she could see what the quality of the, I don't know, the cabbage is, she would know. That would mean a lot to her. Here's the cabbage you can get today. Because she'll just complain if she can't pick it out. So the idea being, there's so many of these opportunities, but in the meantime, you have to survive and you have to eat. So I think that's what we're seeing with a lot of restaurants. They're working I wish we had a restaurateur on today. Maybe next time we can do that. But how are they going to survive through this?
Absolutely. It's going to be very interesting. And I think what you talked about there are the opportunities. And I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities. You're seeing a lot of people start moving forward with new thinking and new ways of doing things. And I think that's going to be a big opening. But also back to those concerns about commercial real estate. A lot of people, their employees are working from home.
Yeah.
There's people just they're adapting to the change. And as they adapt to the change, some of that change is working and saving them money in some areas. So it's going to be interesting moving forward, especially for commercial real estate, because I'm not sure you're going to need as much space, or the space that you need might not need to be in the location you need it. So back to the old days of location. That location might be in the middle of nowhere because the property taxes are lower and you don't need to see anybody.
So let's take the second level to that solution. When that happens, think about yourself. When's the last time you bought gas?
A few days ago.
So for me, it's been over a month and a half. Because so if you're not traveling just for work, gas, you won't have the same gas. Now, what does that mean for the car industry, which is the third level? Well, you're not going to have as much wear and tear in your car. What does that mean for car accidents? Well, there won't be as many, thankfully. So will our insurance rates drop proportionally? Probably not. Insurance profits will go through the roof. Just like, remember when they changed the size of the milk bag? It wasn't quite proportional to what you used to pay. Same thing will happen with insurance. So they'll make tons of profit because there'll be fewer accidents. And it just continues to ripple down, right? But I totally agree with you. And that's why I brought up the Trudeau comment about physicians. Physicians are kind of like, you know, when I talk to them, they're, you know, it's medical, it's life, you have to be there. And now they're saying 90%. Now, there were online services I've talked about before, such as Get Maple, which is an online virtual doctor system out of Toronto that I've used myself for a few years just to see what it's like. It's been around for 3, 4, I don't know how many years. I've met with the developers and the doctors who developed it. They've been doing virtual health for probably 4 or 5 years. And there have been a ton of them in Canada, startups doing this. So this isn't new. So I was kind of unique when the Prime Minister said, we're going to spend $250 million developing a platform for doctors. I thought, why don't you call GetApp, Google, Get Maple, or in all these other companies, and just start tomorrow. You could do it tomorrow. And New Brunswick, I'm working with a group out there who already have a free online physician platform for all residents of New Brunswick. Like today, if you're a resident of New Brunswick, you can go on, you see a doctor's calendar. It says opening 8:30. You click on 8:30. The doctor's there at 8:30, maybe 8:31 max. You can get a script. You can get a renewal of your subscription, and if it's the 10% that need, you might have to take a video of what's going on, or the symptoms. The doctor will have you go to the hospital, or, you know, whatever. So there's some things you have to be seen, but this is happening today in New Brunswick, right now, free. So we don't have to spend $250 million to figure out a platform to deliver healthcare, because it's going on out east. So I think this is the frustrating part, that it doesn't have to be recreated. There's some really incredibly smart entrepreneurs in Chatham-Kent doing things right now that we need to, and hopefully on this down the road, we can talk about some of them here so that they can come out and tell us what they're doing to solve some of these needs. It's not taking advantage of people during a problem. It's solving a problem during this time that's
Right.
that's happened to us.
Absolutely.
By the way,
it's
finish your breakfast story before what is it like eating breakfast at a restaurant today?
Well, I didn't eat breakfast at a restaurant. I just picked it up at the breakfast.
Oh, it's takeout. I'm sorry, it was takeout.
Yeah. But I did
okay.
follow the Waffle House. I think we talked about it the other week about the Waffle House opening, and they've changed a lot of things. So they're at half capacity, and they have a lot of measures in place. And I don't know how some of these restaurants are going to go back to normal, and how the social norms of it are going to go back to normal, because it's looking tough, because you got to see how people react when they finally go back.
Well,
right?
one of my sons lives in a large city, and he did a takeout at a fast food restaurant. And he said, and right away he said, they weren't taking precautions. And I said, what do you mean? He said, and he listed all the rules they were breaking about not social distancing, but just being healthy and smart and clean. And this is a international chain. And they don't have when I go to the Blenheim Mindful Gourmet Shop, the precautions are incredible. Like it's amazing what you can do at a small gourmet shop in Blenheim, Ontario, where you have to have certain rules, and you hand things over here, and the thing where you put in your card has a thing over top, so you don't, oh my God. And then you hear about a major chain that's just missing the boat. And I think that's just incredible.
And that's where I go back to that, being prepared for social backlash.
Yeah.
Right. Being prepared for the way people are now going to think when they go into a restaurant, because they're going to be thinking, I'm watching movies, I'm watching TV, and I'm thinking they're not social distancing.
That's right.
When these things are going through my mind while watching TV, how things have changed. And we're almost 2 months. Are we 2 months right now?
Seems like 2 years, but I think it's been 2 months. Yeah.
But so we've adapted to a lot of this. This is becoming our new normal of keeping space, of making sure and being aware of what others are doing, and not.
Let me throw this at you though. Like last night, you probably heard, I saw on the news today that President Trump said by Christmas there'll be a vaccine, and then you've got the Quebec model of herd immunity. No one wants to talk about this, but let's throw it out there. What if this really goes away? Like when you think about Florida, Warren played a lot of seniors my age and older. They were going to have 450,000 people in the hospital. They had 2,000 people from COVID go to the hospital. There's something weird. Same with California. I don't know if it's the heat or I don't know. But anyway, let's say it kind of goes away, whether it's vaccine or herd immunity or whatever. Do you think people will go back to the old way automatically, like going to packed restaurants and, forget all this social, or do you think it's changed forever, regardless?
I think it's changed for a long time. I would go for almost ever.
Really?
At least some changes, at least that thought, especially for our generation. And again, our kids, I got a 10-year-old and 12-year-old, they're going to be consumers, right? And they've now learned. Now, luckily for them, and I think this is maybe a good thing, maybe a bad thing, I'm not sure, but they haven't experienced going out for dinner a lot, right? And paying for stuff and going to restaurants. Now, my kids are a little bit different. I take my kids out a lot, probably more than normal. So they're a little bit more socially different, where they're used to going to restaurants or they're used to being in social situations. And now that's all been taken away from them. But I don't think they really measure how close together somebody is, like we're seeing in the news and that.
What are you going to do if you're a hands-on person, though? You can't work from home, and you're in the restaurant business, or you're in the, what other businesses? Maybe certain types of labor where you have to go and we know about the meat packing plants and so on. If that suddenly changes and these people aren't employed, then what are they all going to do?
I think they're going to be building robots. You're going to move to automation, because one thing, and this is as we move forward, is that it's happened once. Okay, we've already done that. We already know that the government and the powers that may be are willing to flick a switch to off. Okay, we know they're capable of that. And now we believe it's for our own good. So the majority of Canadians and Americans and people all over the world think it's for their own good that they've now adapted to something like this. And so there, in my opinion, this is my thoughts, is that a year from now we might see, okay, let's flip the switch for a week to take care of the flu or another problem that develops because they've done it. And we have to be able to kind of adapt to that change, right?
Who pays?
And be prepared. This is
Who
where it
writes the
gets
check,
tricky.
Ben? Huh?
This is where it gets, and I think what we're seeing is the real negative of this whole thing hasn't happened yet. But when you're out, I was out driving the other day or yesterday, and I see more things for sale on the front lawns.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's because we just got by May 1st,
Mm-hmm.
right? How many malls in Canada and the United States had tenants that did not pay May 1st rent?
Something like 50
How many
to
people missed the
60%.
rent? So you're going to see that number rise, and the longer that this thing goes, I mean, you're gonna see a lot of shutdowns. But I think with back to the employees and what they'll be doing, I think the automation is going to be key for businesses. They're gonna have to think about the future and what happens next. Are they going to be protected? Well, we are not. Are they going to be proud to say we're not affected by this next shutdown because we've automated everything and we're here for you to produce and stuff? I think that's going to be a big selling feature for a lot of businesses. However, it's not good for the amount of people they once employed.
Right.
They're
And
going to be
look at the
creating
season.
things that don't get sick.
Like we're in our community, think of the seasonal tourist businesses in the lakeside communities. I mean, I've been involved in seasonal businesses. On the podcast, I talk about one of my biggest mistakes I call the ice cream company. And I had an ice cream company. That was one of my first businesses that I made tons of mistakes. Any mistake I probably made. And the thing about that was, in a seasonal business, if you lose 1 month, it's either 2 or 3 of a normal business because you don't get Christmas right. You get that warm season if you
Right.
sell ice cream or if you're a outdoor person. So what happens now? We're already into May. Marinas are getting ready, but people aren't so we've already missed some months. If we don't go back to normal, they're gonna miss the entire year. These small businesses, how are they going to survive another winter where they haven't had the summer income to make up for that? And many of them don't qualify for any of these programs, and some of them announced haven't even started yet. So I think we haven't seen that ripple effect in our community. You talk about real estate. What's going to happen? And then there's a ripple effect from that, right? And so I don't know. Either we get back to it, or it's going to be very painfully slow. I don't think it's going to happen quickly, and I think some of the opportunities will. And there's going to be some. This is a time to survive and then jack up and come out the other end. But I think it's going to take a little bit of, it's a luck and probability as well, because if tomorrow there's a vaccine announced for September, people automatically would say, well, this is over. We don't have to worry about it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
the president said December, which is after the election. So if he gets reelected, he can go, I made a mistake. It's 2 years from now. So we don't really can put much credence into that. So we really have to assume there's going to be no vaccine. I mean, even with a vaccine, how many people do we lose to the flu every year? So we have to assume that there's going to be no vaccine. So what do we do about it? And I think you're right when you talk about modifications. And I'm just very worried for the restaurant industry and the current model. I just don't know with 50%, 70%. Then you talk about plexiglass. If you're sitting in a plexiglass, Jetsons kind of protection outfit.
Right.
I mean, who's going to clean the glass between people? What's it going to cost? Where are the margins? How the food's prepared, right? I mean, I don't know, man.
And it's, when you go back and let's talk about the ripple effect, that you don't see the ripple effect. Yeah. The ripple effect is still happening. I think the problem that we're facing is that we have these new social ways of communicating, and it's just that we're not talking about and focusing on the ripple effect. There's people struggling. There are people worried, sick about losing their business, losing their homes, losing their vehicles in the near future. But it's a balance. And again, back to our first startup on back to business.
Mm-hmm.
if these people start talking about, hey, listen, I got to go back to business or I lose my business, right? I got to go back or I start losing my life that I've built over a period of time. It's not socially acceptable yet to talk about that. And people are often in the social media world, the backlash is, are you putting money ahead of, lives? Because they've been hit hard with nonstop doom and gloom media about, death,
Yeah.
right? And when people are struggling, the minute they ask, hey, listen, they put their hand up, I gotta get back to work, I gotta get back to doing my business as normal before I lose everything. There's a portion of this new social norm that pushes back on those people, right? And those are the people that are employing people, providing good services to the community. And, they're the ones that also sponsor all our soccer, hockey, and baseball teams as well. And it's going to be interesting as this moves forwards, but the ripple effect, it's going to be talked about later. You're seeing a lot of the ripple effect in the health industry, where you have somebody in BC. I just read this morning, somebody in BC missed their kidney surgery and therefore died.
Yeah.
But that could have been prevented, right? Let's go. Possibility exists that it could have been prevented, right? With that surgery. So you're seeing a lot of these things.
We don't have a structure for this, Ben. Like after you get through this 3, 6, 12-month survival for a person in a small business, and now you have that, you're going to eat and have a roof over your head if you can try to work that out. Then becomes, okay, how do I prepare for the next step in my life?
Right.
We're not helping, and this is and this is just our opinion, you and I. We're not telling people to do anything. We're just giving you what we think or what we're doing. And I think we need to give people the tools so that if you have a restaurant, you have an incredible number of skills, you love food, let's figure out the way to do food in a way you're going to make a profit, hopefully even maybe better than the margins you had before. But what's that going to look like? What's the tech connection? How do you, but the problem is sometimes I think it's like that $240 million announcement for platforms when we already have platforms. When you go to certain branches for advice, you want to make sure people kind of get where you're at. You don't want MBA stuff where they've never been out there. I mean, I was at 22% when I started the ice cream business. Interest rates were 22%, 24%. I bought properties at 16%. So those kind of crises in 2009 when the market crashed, and when I'm old, like I am, you've been through a few, not as much as my parents because they had, depression and war and all of that, but we've had our share of ups and downs. People today, 30-year-olds, sorry, you're young, probably have not been through, other than 2009, a severe economic downturn like this, where you're just everything you knew is gone. Things that you knew would be there are gone. And so how do you come out of this? And that's where we need to maybe talk more about people on this show who are doing it and find out how. One thing I'm fascinated by, there was a book written called How Artists Work, I believe is the title. I don't want to do a book. I just want to get information on how entrepreneurs work. I just want to know, and I'll be sending something out to people that I know. I just want to know from the time you get up to the time you get to bed at night, what's your day like? Because most of us who are entrepreneurs are very isolated, not just because of COVID. We work alone. You seek out for advice and you talk to colleagues. So my question is, what do entrepreneurs, what's their life like? How many hours do they sleep? What's their family life? How do they process? Do they have goals? Like today, when you got up, what did you do? Well, I have a very strict routine regimen. Work out, do this, do that, because that's how I function better. Everybody has their own. But I'd like to know how entrepreneurs work, because that might help share information to others who are moving into that. Because now everybody, if you own a business, you were an entrepreneur before, you're a really serious startup entrepreneur today, whether you know it or not.
I think everybody's a startup entrepreneur now.
But that's scary. Remember how scary that is?
When you're a startup, you got to dig in deep.
Oh my God.
Startups got to dig in deep. And I think, especially when you go back to the talking about the Etch-a-Sketch, we really had everything that we kind of knew, and we just shook it up, and it's no longer there. Everything that we've created is no longer there. And if it is, the way we sell it has changed, and the way we move product has changed. So I do think what we have to move forward is understanding, back to the platforms. Look what's already being done.
Hmm.
Look what other people are doing. I think the real winners are going to be the ones that are looked at as to what they're doing as change, right? Because they're going to be leading edge. But there's everybody changing a little bit, especially in the restaurant industry. I believe what we're going to see is more takeout focus, and less dining room space,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Or at least that dining room space, you're not going to have the same amount of people in it.
maybe I guess when you talked about, I think we were talking, you said there should be policies or clear scientifically based processes for every industry on social distancing. Because when people call, I've got a fence coming in, and then we're planning the wildflower bee farm. First thing I said to them, what's your social distancing? And I'm thinking,
Right.
what am I asking that question for? Usually it's what's the price, or are you whatever. Now I'm going like, what's the social distancing? Are people safe? Like I think I told you, we did a roof in Nova Scotia, and we did a roof in Niagara Falls, and I said, what's your social distancing? Like, what's your procedures? How do you make sure people are safe and all that kind of stuff? And I found, and that's important to me, but it becomes a new agenda item, right? It becomes like, I was thinking I needed some stuff at Canadian Tire the other day. I didn't go because I don't know what their social policy, I don't know how they're handling this. They said curbside pickup. Well, I needed a battery. I feel kind of dumb calling up a place and say, I need a battery, like a car battery. So you have to educate the public on what it is and how you get that service, and we will buy. Now think for a minute, what's happened with people who are able to work? How are they spending money? I don't know. Like, what's their behavior like? Have they stopped spending foolishly? Maybe there'll be more, financial planning opportunities for people in that industry, because people are going to save more, hopefully, for rainy days, and
Right.
they'll want secure investments, not things that are going to blow up. And what is a secure investment? What's the definition look like? If you're my age or 70 and you have an RSP or you have an investment, what do you do? We had negative interest rates. You can't. So how does that work? So all of this requires a lot of work. And so I think if people are like us, entrepreneurs, they're probably not sleeping a lot because they're working. They're not worried. They're just working on these solutions.
Yeah, and they're kind of creating them. They're creating the solutions that work for their business, and it's going to be different. Everything's going to be changing, and the more that people ask about those social distancing strategies that people have in place, and the more reviews, I think as hotels get have TripAdvisor, we're going to see social distance advisor,
Mm-hmm.
where we know what's in place, because I've talked about it before. I have a little bit higher risk tolerance than other people, so I'm going to be the one that goes to the business, to the restaurants, and I'm not going to be as concerned as other people.
Right.
But that's just me. That I'm not as I have a higher risk tolerance than
Yeah, I
other
don't
people.
care either. I want
Right.
other people to be safe, but for my own, I don't care. I
Yeah.
don't think, and the other thing we haven't talked about is they say that 46% or something of Canadians aren't healthy. We eat too much, we're obese,
Right.
we're too, whatever. That's the prey of COVID if you're old or if you have certain pre-existing conditions. Not all of them, but some of them. So no one wants to even talk about that. That if we were to get healthier, it's not going to directly help us with COVID, but it's going to help us fight the flu and other things and live a better life. But no one's talked about that. That maybe and I think I heard an emergency physician talk about that a lot of people that were coming to the hospitals in New York were unhealthy
Right.
folks. And we're not trying to blame or anything. We're just saying there's a need there, hopefully, for many people to say, hey, I need to start getting healthier. So the industry you're involved with, I'd be interested. How is the home fitness industry or the personal training that you used to do, how is that you see changing? Because that's your background
Well,
too.
I've spoken to a few gym owners on some live interviews just in the past couple weeks, and when I'm looking and I see, again, this is where I see an opportunity as an entrepreneur going back into solving some problems in the fitness industry, is we're not talking about it too much, but when things open up, you want to be at the healthiest point in your life,
Mm-hmm.
right? You want to be healthier now than ever before, right? And we know that the safety measures in place, like, so as a fitness instructor and a personal one-on-one fitness trainer, which is why people called me, is I work with their problems. They may have a health. Nobody gets a personal trainer just for fun, right? Not many people do. They have a problem to solve. They either want to be a better athlete. They need some help to be a better athlete so they can do something better in whatever they're doing. It could be going to, be a better hockey player or something in sports, or be a better runner in competition. They may have a health issue. This is the number one reason that people get a personal trainer, is because, hey, listen, I have, possible diabetes coming on. My doctor said I have to lose weight or get healthy, or I'm going to be going down a different path. My heart isn't as good as it used to be. I have to change my ways. The problem that a lot of personal trainers face with people is that when these people get drugs to solve the problem, or temporarily give them that safety net, like a vaccine for coronavirus, if the vaccine's available, people are going to feel a little bit more at ease, even if they don't have it, right? If they know it's coming. So when you hear President Trump, who's always positive and tries to give you a future, he says December. That gives people something to look forward to, even if it's wrong, even if he has no clue. The potential's there, and it gives them that safety feel. So when personal trainers are working with people, they want to start doing it, but all of a sudden this work, of going to the gym every day seems like work compared to what this pill is providing me. Right? So what we found now is the pill or drugs that people take to help them when they're living an unhealthy lifestyle, they don't matter anymore, right? This coronavirus has cut right through. So if you have underlying conditions like heart disease or diabetes, you are really, really at risk. And what are those? What is diabetes and heart disease? These are somewhat preventable, right? They are somewhat a lot of these underlying conditions are preventable. And I think where personal trainers have an opportunity is selling health, not selling sexy, selling health, living longer, longevity, being able to be around for your kids longer, right? That's what we can sell as personal trainers. It wasn't easy to sell before, right? Health isn't sexy. I can't put health on a commercial, right? It doesn't look good. What looks good is somebody, with 5 pant sizes too big and they lost weight. That looks good. You can sell that all day long. But things have changed, and you're going to be able to focus in on, hey, listen, maybe this isn't going away. They've been told nonstop that it's not going away. But that's where an avenue where more people are going to have to change their habits to be healthier. Right?
But the question is, like you said, will it change the belief system that meds are better? For example, we know the science at McMaster University that if people with type 2 diabetes did 10 minutes a day of cardio, very simple. It's called 10 minutes with 20-second bursts. We do it at Exercise MD. If you had 2 people do that for 12 months, one would no longer have type 2 diabetes after 1 year. That's what the science says. Okay, so I'm not making this up. This is everywhere, North America, Europe, and everywhere. But try to get people to do exercise every day. Like we're talking 10, maybe 30 minutes eventually, but just say 10 for now. 10 will make you healthier. The belief system still is that we don't need to do it. We don't need to do it because if we have diabetes, and look at mental health. I mean, exercise for depression has been well documented. The American Psychological Association said exercise is better than therapy for certain types, and people should do 10 to 20 to 30 minutes a day of exercise, and it's as good as therapy and some medications. Nobody talks about that because it's work, Ben. It's not, and we all hate it. As humans, we hate to exercise. So if we get an easier solution, we're all going to take it, right? I mean, that's just human nature. So the question I have for you is, do you think this really will change that underlying belief that I can get the same result easier by not doing the work for a personal training with what you're talking about?
Depends on the medications that come out. But again, if I was in the fitness industry still, I would be pushing the point of it doesn't matter what drugs helped at these underlying conditions. this virus cut right through of them.
Right.
And after this virus, I think it's easy to think in your mind that there could be another one. That's not a hard sell anymore. So that's
Right.
going to be in the back of people's minds. Second wave. Watch how often you hear the words second wave, right? So everything is it's confirming what you're already starting to think and pushing people to. You're going to see the advertisements change, right? To health, right? To be as healthy as you can be, to protect yourself, right? That's the number one protection. Look around. It's
So
the number one protection is being healthy.
If you owned a car dealership, what would you do today? Just let's finish with a couple of positive thoughts for people. I'll just tell you what I think this week. But and then I'll tell you my crazy idea. If you had a car dealership, what would you do today? Assuming you didn't have to stick with a contract for very long, what would you do?
Well, if I was a car dealership,
yeah,
is that what you're saying? If I'm selling cars, I'm putting a camera right behind me, okay, and I'm going to drive every car around and talk about it, and then I'll park it again. So I'm giving people an inside, drive themselves. They're driving it with me. I'm going to set that camera up perfectly for it, and then that is my commercials. And put your offer in, and then come in, test it, and make sure it's what you want. And come up with some new policies on, to get out of so people want to buy something, but they want an out. So if I'm selling a house, I'm going to probably be asking people, if you're really serious about the house, I'm going to go over there. I'm going to do a walkthrough. I'm going to do videos of everything. If you like it, let's put an offer based on condition of viewing it yourself, and getting the home inspection if that's what you want to do, plus your other conditions like mortgage finance. But I think, again, like selling the car, you're the sale's already made before anybody sees it. I think the quicker you can figure out a way to get people comfortable of buying the product without being in the product, and give them that out after. I know Carvana. Have you ever Carvana? It's basically you call, or you view it online, and then they deliver it. It's just, that's how they do it.
I'd start two divisions. I'll say what I would do. I would expand my service department. I went to the Volkswagen guys in Chatham, and I got my winter. Mary and I got our winters and springs or summer tires flipped. Right. It was a 2-hour process. You should see their distancing process. It makes you feel so secure. I'd go back there tomorrow if I had a problem. Like, there's no. It's not even on the table at that car dealership. As far as going to the service department, they spray your keys before you hand it to them. Okay. They wipe your car down before they take it into the service guys. And then they wipe it down again when it takes you 2 hours to get your tires changed, but there's no real significant increase in cost. So I would and then I would keep the sales, like you say, more virtual and stuff. But then I would start a home delivery service, because you have cars, and I would hire students and people, and I would become the best home delivery service for the community and develop an app. I'd hire a couple students so other dealers could aggregate and use part of their business to use some of their demo cars to deliver, some to seniors, some to other, because you have a fleet of cars, and you have a service department to take care of them, and you have land to hold the cars, and you have smart people that know logistics, because they're always, when you go in and buy a car, they say it'll be here in a week or 6 days from some place, right? So they know how to do that. So I would create this extra business to take and leverage everything else you have going on. And then you'd have an amazing bit. You still sell cars. Your service department, which is your biggest profit part, would be huge on the social and the flu. You'd push the flu season. That'd be a marketing thing. So it's a flu season. Come to this Volkswagen dealership. Here's all the things we do. And our cars start at, I bought a car 18 grand, which is still, I think, a lot of money, but you can buy cars there for inexpensive amounts, and they take care of you. Because I've had the other end. I used to go to a Mercedes dealer in London. The Volkswagen in Chatham service is better than the Mercedes guy in London. That was my experience. So I started buying. I'm a Volkswagen guy. Plus, I've had victims of car accidents who did survive while being in a Volkswagen in my other part of my life. So I like Volkswagens. I want everybody. I don't have stock in the company or anything. I just like, so what I'm trying to say is that's my weird way of looking at the second level of a dealership. So I think we got to start, and we talk about, you have an idea. If it's a low entry point, you're not going to spend a lot of money. You put 2 or 3 months into it. Here's the thing I want people to remember, and this is just my 2 cents, throw it out before we go because we're almost at an hour. The door is open and the door is going to close. So right now you have an opportunity with people socially isolating. There's a certain pattern of behavior changing. When this moves on, whatever on may be, the opportunity is gone. This current opportunity. So you have to take action. Ideas are great. Everybody has ideas, but you have to look at what does it take to put them into action. So a couple of things for me this week is when you think about your week that's coming up, because this is kind of like the start of our work week, number one, you need routine. You need to develop a routine for today, what you're going to do. We've talked about loafing at that other show, but routine. What are you going to do to get to work? Secondly, the two most, focus on what you can control, which is your attitude and your effort. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It's your attitude and your effort. Because those are the two things, as you continue to practice, that will lead you out of this to success. Those are my 2 top thoughts for the week.
Awesome. And back to taking action. I took action. I'm running the streets of Chatham.
I saw that. What is wrong with you? I saw that.
Well, I blame you. I blame you.
God, no.
I need that routine.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a routine. My routine was going to the gym.
Yeah.
For my brain, going to the gym and hitting the treadmill, then hitting the weights, that works for me. When that was all taken away, and I've tried to get out for runs, but it really was kind of boring to me. So when things aren't as great as I want them to be, I don't do them as much. I just don't do it. So what I thought is, how do I create a system for my brain to go out and do more? So I downloaded a Strava app, which follows you and fills in the blanks of the roads.
Yep.
And I'm just, doing sections of Chatham. So I think in the last 5 days, I've ran 50 kilometers, so about 10 kilometers a day. And, I'm just chipping off. I'm filling in the blanks. I'm basically, coloring in the streets. And I do one section and I look forward to the next section. I plan it out. It gives me something to do. How long do I think it'll take me to do this section? I also, as a real estate agent, get to see every street of Chatham.
Yep.
So that's working for me. That's what I probably needed to do for my own health and for my own, just feeling better. And as you say, and I know you preach it a lot, fitness and stuff is a big deal, right? And exercise is a big deal.
How'd the rest of your working and family life and everything change when you started exercising again?
I think the creativity is where it's a significant difference. It's you see more production. You're just doing more, right? And I think that's what fitness does for me, especially getting a good workout in. You feel like you've already done something. Like when I fill in the blanks now, I know this is only I think today is going to be day 6 of it. But when you accomplish it, when you think you're accomplishing something, you feel like you can move on to the next task. Right? Like there's other things that you want to check off today because you already nailed this one. You're feeling good about it. What else can I do?
Well, the science is very clear. If you exercise every day, every aspect of your life that you care for, science tells us will get better. They make more income. They have better family relationships. They have better relationship with their children. They have better with their colleagues. They're able to think clearer, as you said. They can remember more things, which is even a very, quantitative numbers thing. So the benefit of starting your day, I tell people, start your day for your brain health or other conditions, end your day for stress. I have people I work with who work out twice a day, but they might only do 15 in the morning or 30 at night, depending on the work that they're in. So you can use it purposefully or prescriptively, as we say at exercisemd.ca. But I got to tell you, entrepreneurs need to exercise every day. Should start your day with something, even if it's a walk with 20-second bursts if you can. If your doctor says it's okay, don't do too much if you can, or get help before you do. But that will change your entire business life. So you've got to do some things to get your brain and self ready to put out the effort and change your attitude. And the 10 minutes in the morning will change everything. Everything.
Absolutely.
7 days a week, by the way, not every other day. You got to do it every day.
You
Go ahead.
do, you do, and you got to make it a routine.
We hate it.
What's
You
going to
don't
be our
hate it. You
homework?
love it. You're one of those weird guys who loves things. I
What's
hate
going
it.
to be our homework for this week? I like what you talked about for or for an opportunity
Yep.
for a dealership, a car
Yep.
dealership.
Well, we're just throwing ideas. Dealers, don't do that. I
Yeah.
don't want any dealers to get sued by Chrysler because they changed their program or something.
Yeah.
What for me?
But the
go ahead.
what about the small used car dealership? Let's talk about the small used
I don't
car
know anything about
dealership.
cars other than driving them, but
Yeah.
to me, it would be
But
look at the. Go ahead.
No, go back to your idea there.
I was just going to say you have to look at the second, third, and fourth level of your industry, how it's going to change, not just the first, because we all look at the first, right? How am I going to sell cars? How am I going to get more customers in the door? My second level would be, how are you going to, now what is it you're really in the business of? Is it in the business of selling cars or providing transportation? So if I had a fleet of used cars, and I don't know anything about cars, but other than driving them, I would say, again, is there a service component to your business? If not, do you have a relationship with a service? Is there a relationship with a cleaning company or car wash? Or would you start a hand car wash? I don't know. To fully service a car? Or would you take those cars and use them for some other purpose? Could I do a short-term thing on a used car? Could I get a car from you for $500 for 1 month? I don't know. Let's say I'm social distancing or working from home, and now I want to go to, say the restrictions are removed, and I want to travel around for a month. How do I get a car for a month that's reasonable? Because those are new demands I think people are going to have.
Right.
I wanted a pickup truck the other day because I wanted to get some bees to the farm. I don't have a truck. I have a car. Last time I had bees, I had to put the outfit on and the bees were flying in the car and it was kind of crazy. So how do you get, I mean, there's conventional rentals, but I think there's going to be other ways people are going to want to use. Those are just some, I would want to sit down with the used car person and look at the numbers and what's the most profitable. What do you think is going to be the demand?
Well, I think kind of a neat maybe homework thing for me this week. I talk to a lot of people and I know a lot of dealers. I'm going to talk to a used car dealer this week and I'm going to explore opportunities with them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd love to do that. If you could get them on the show, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
They could laugh at
and
some
then we're
of these
going to
ideas.
try and we're going to try bring somebody on Monday morning to talk about some of these things that can be implemented, because I think you're so right when you say second, third, and fourth levels, right? The next steps and what figuring out the future of this.
Well,
and
yeah, are they?
And also protecting yourself of future shutdowns.
Yeah, I'm looking at this now in all the businesses we've invested in. So what is the second, third, fourth tier possible? Remember, we're just flipping a coin. We have no idea. No one can predict the future. But if you have an inkling that maybe this is a way that they should consider, and remember, one other thing is important for entrepreneurs, and I talk about this a lot, is not to do anything you hear, but just listen. People don't want to listen. So when you and I say stuff, about, say, herd immunity, people who say, well, that's a Trump idea. Forget, just if there were a thing called herd immunity, just consider it for a moment. What would that do to your business? Or if we never have a way to solve COVID, and whether you agree with it or not, just consider it. It's about listening, isn't about doing initially. It's just about considering where the message is coming from. You can say, well, they don't know anything and I'm not going to listen, or I'm going to just consider the possibility. And if an entrepreneur, businessman, woman will listen, not do, just listen, the world's in front, they'll do great. But the biggest barrier I see is young entrepreneurs. And this is one of the things I always ask people in an interview. I say, what % of this industry do you know? And I've had 25-year-olds tell me, well, I just graduated with an MBA. I know 95% of this industry. And I look at them and I usually start laughing. I go, well, I'm like 63. I've been around a long time. I might know 20, maybe 19%. I'm pushing it. And they go, what do you mean? I just got an MBA. I said, no, you don't know we don't know anything. I don't know anything. We're just based on experience. We have some ideas maybe. It's all about listening, because if you start at that, I know everything about car dealers. I know everything about, so you got to look outside your area. Like some of the best ideas for restaurants won't come from the restaurant industry. They'll come from a tech company or a social sharing, or it might be a construction company. I don't know what that has to do with, but it may have something to do with how construction is done and general contractors, how they plan a building, maybe in a very finite way. Right. That's going to happen in a kitchen. What precautions, what health, think about the health on a construction site, all the different, regulations. We're going to have regulations like that in food prep that we don't have today. And even car, people have, you have to go to that Volkswagen place and check out what they do. At first, it was a little scary because they have the signs and all this stuff, but I felt really good going there.
Yeah.
Can't
And
stay.
again,
You got to go. You know.
Yeah, and back to our opening thing about being back to business and how clients and employees are going to be working and the social norms and how people react. I think you've actually been the greatest kind of hands-on experience person here with a personal testimonial of how a business can get good reviews from you based on going that extra mile, like spraying those keys down.
Yeah, I was impressed.
Right.
And
totally. I believe that you're going to see more people. And again, you're a person that's not as crazy worried about things.
No.
So when you see things like that, you feel good. Yeah. All right. And that's where I think you're going to see some businesses. And that's why, we have to talk about that more about, again, that social review, right? That testimonial that people are going to have leaving your business. Do they feel good, or are they going to tell people, I don't know about them, they weren't really doing things? And especially now when you compare it to other businesses, if other businesses are spraying keys down,
yep,
and you find somebody that isn't, that's going to be a big deal later. Believe it or not, that's going to be a big deal later when it comes to testimonials and reviews.
Think about this. Think if you had an app that was not an app, but a platform that had a place to aggregate all the social distancing, disease prevention strategies of every industry. And people just went in on their own, sort of like Wikipedia. You just went in, you said car dealer, and you just typed in what you're doing. And then I, as a consumer, could search, or I, as a car dealer, could search. So you develop a platform. So you own the platform, and you encourage people to put in there every small business, every industry, restaurant, fish, whatever. And then you could always go, and this builds on science. It builds over time because it's going to constantly be changing. And then when the government comes out, it goes out and grabs that and puts it in there. So I can just click on government regs if there's a government reg. So the opportunity for that kind of information and knowledge is going to be very important, regardless of what you're in. I'm a landscaper. I cut grass. I paint houses. I change windows. I cut hair. I'm a massage therapist, chiropractor, whatever it may be. And I think that's another example of a second, third, fourth wave business that is going to have to be developed for us to move forward with this, because I'm now thinking about this. So a guy like me is thinking, every time I talk to someone, as I said, what's the distancing? Like what's your policy if I go? And I don't really care, but I still think somehow it's been ingrained in me from media or whatever, and I don't like it, but it's what it is.
I think that's what you'll find with everybody. You get hit with it. We've been hit with it for 2 straight months, right? When that happens, and then all of a sudden, especially when a lot of stuff that your norms have been taken away, you start really kind of going towards that group, right? It's hard to not think social distancing.
That's right.
Right? When somebody comes in for a hug later, you're going to see a lot of people wonder. Even if
we won't even do handshakes. Forget the hug.
Yeah, you're going to see. You're going to see a whole different world. Henry, what do you got for homework for this week for young entrepreneurs or people already in business?
Couple things. I want you to think about the issue of first, second, third wave. First, let's go back. First of all, hopefully you have in place a 3, 6, or 12-month survival plan, so you're going to eat and have a roof over your head and somehow take care of things. But the second step to this would be look at what you're doing and say, okay, forget what I usually do, so the switch isn't going to just be turned on. Take my skill set. So list your skill set, and then think of ways within your industry you're going to use that for the new reality of what's out there. And we'll talk some more about that. In a simple term, focus on effort and attitude. And remember, we at PI Reporters at businessentrepreneur.weekly.com, I have a checklist, a thing people can go through to survive in COVID. And one of them has to do with, if you have an idea, what's the rigor that you need to go through to be able to take that idea from an idea to a pilot and to try it and to see if it works. And you've only got weeks. So this isn't like we're going to think about it, we're going to analyze it. Yeah, you do some of that, but you've got to get going. You've got to do that trial. And if someone wants to talk about a platform that we can build for delivery, let me know, because I'd love to have them on the show and we can talk about that.
Awesome. All right, Henry. So again, you have this pireporters.com that people can go to, fighting for your community. What is it, $1.99? That's all?
It's $1.99 a month, and I also have the free podcast Shrink Money Advice. It's supposed to be twice a month, but we've been doing it about every 3 or 4 days because of everything that's happening.
Okay.
And it's basically taking people from real estate investing into some of the other things I'm doing. I'm not telling people what to do. I'm just telling them what I do for information and hopefully entertainment purposes only.
Awesome. All right, Henry, thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, for watching. If you're watching this on a replay, great. Please share. And I'm going to do some homework this week so that I have a action of some sort that I can bring back next Monday morning. And hopefully we'll have a guest and we'll talk about some business, local business. And again, that is Business Entrepreneur Weekly, reporting local business. And we will see you again next week. Thank you very much, Henry.
See you next Monday, Ben, at 7. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too.